on to the third edition of Behind the Grow. My name is Eric Coulombe with Garden Culture Magazine, and today my guest is Manny Pelaez. Is that pronounce it?
Pelaez.
Pelaez. I've only known you for 15 years, and I still can't pronounce your last name. My phone calls you Many Peas, so that's why I'm still confused.
Honestly, I enjoy watching you butcher it, so it's okay.
That's all right. Thanks. So, I've known Manny, like I said, for 15 years. We met when he first started in the industry with Bofloral USA, and we've been, I would say, very good, almost close to best friends ever since. You know, when you and I were talking before the show, and I realized that we only worked together for 2 years.
Wow, is that it?
I know. And,
wow.
And like I said to Celia, it feels to me like we've been working together for 15 years.
Yeah, I agree.
I've never stopped talking to you.
Our cadence of conversation never diminished after, we left Bofloral, right?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talk all, I mean, I won't say every week. I'm sure there's been a couple instances of time where it was 3 weeks that we didn't talk. But I've always kind of kept track of each other's careers and tried to help each other. Now that you're with AutoPot USA and you're advertising with us, so we get to work. I work more with Luke. Luke's the guy who deals with the marketing at AutoPot USA, and we'll talk about him later because he's worthy of conversation. He's such an amazing guy. Yep. And as Nick would say, such a great smile. Oh, oh, Luke. Anyway, so Manny and I go back 15 years. Like I said, we met Bofloral, and Manny reminded me of a funny story of the early days.
Oh, no.
You're the one who told me the story when you came to the trade show for the first time. So Manny was the warehouse manager for Bofloral USA when we had moved. I was the sales manager for Bofloral USA, and Frank, the owner, had moved the warehouse to Miami. I thought he was going to be moving it to California, where I had been doing all my work, but he decided to move it to Miami. And okay, that's the way it went.
French Canadians in Florida,
Yeah, French Canadians in Florida, exactly. So he had some contacts there, and then he had brought in Steve D'Ambrosio to manage it, and Manny was the warehouse manager. At the time, we also had Nathan working for us. And Nathan, I love Nathan. You love Nathan. He was just down for my birthday. He's amazing. But when he entered the industry, I mean, to say he was green, he knew nothing about the industry, nothing about the culture. He was smart. He was hardworking. He friendly. People liked him. But I had to teach him everything. He didn't know anything about anything growing, about cannabis, about nothing. And then Manny came to the trade show, and I turned to Frank and Steve and said,
why'd you bring the warehouse guy?
Yes.
And I was like, who's this asshole? No.
Well, no, I kind of deserve it. And I didn't remember that until you told me the story, and then I remembered it very well. And I'm like, yeah, it's true, I did say that. And I remember the feelings I had of, I have one guy to train, Nathan, it was his first show. And now I have this guy, and here's something. I hope they don't hold me back. I hope they don't make mistakes. I hope they don't fuck up. Like we were a Quebec company in the U.S. We had a lot of challenges.
It was a natural thought, but little did you know you had the A-team. Little did you know. A little bit of coaching, right? So.
No, 100%. And then by the end of that show, you were doing great. You had the vibe, to sell in this industry, and our industry is definitely something special. So no, that was a great intro. And then like I said, we worked together for 2 years, and then you stayed on at Bofloral, right?
I did, and eventually becoming the sales manager there, and handling the entire United States. So it was a wonderful experience. It was very good.
And then and just to go over what you guys sold, Bofloral basically sold a lot of things, and you guys were selling nutrients and lighting and plastic. I know plastics were a big thing for Bofloral because the manufacturing in Quebec was pretty cheap, so we had some good prices and
Yeah, look, a decent selection of some of the stuff carried in Canada, but not everything, and then a separate selection of items that were a little more.
What's that noise that keeps going off?
Sorry, these are my emails.
Man, you're popular.
I
So
know.
I'll leave that in. You can cut it out now, but we can see how popular Manny is. Like it's just email
Oh,
after
I'm
email.
sorry. This will be your first edited. This will be your first edited thing.
No, I'm not. I won't edit it. None of this will be edited. This is great. It just
That's
shows you're busy. I silence my phone so nobody knows how busy I'm not because my phone has nothing.
my emails, but then I silenced you, so I can't do that. Sorry. Please go ahead. Can you repeat that? I'm so
No,
sorry.
no, we're just talking about your days at Biofloral and what you had to sell, who you were selling it to, and kind of what that was like.
And honestly, you were such a big impact on me, man. And you know the job you had training me and Nathan was uniquely different in our deficits. You know, with Nathan needing more of the cultural knowledge, having a big business background, and you really were my sales guru early on, man. Of like, help me develop the colonists that I needed in this industry and to get out there and to do things. And you really pushed me forward. And within Biofloral, you did as well. So you know, I was very thankful to you for that.
Well, yeah, yeah. After that initial horrible thing I said about you, no, obviously we clicked really well,
We did. At the end
and
of the show, you came to me too. You're like, you know more than any of these guys here. Like,
yeah,
how did you?
I saw that right away, and then you reminded me again when we were talking before about something else I did, and this I remember even better was that idea of I was living in Quebec doing the majority of sales, and then there was Nathan, and then we had you sitting in the warehouse. And I remember kind of going to Frank and Steve and saying, God, please get this guy out of the warehouse. And don't just get him on the road a day, get him on the road all the time. Just get someone else for the rare. You don't take someone who has a skill set for sales and has the kind of, I won't say you have the cool factor, but you know, you're cool enough. You're pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
you're, you're, you're
I
all right.
recall hearing you yelling on speakerphone to both of them. I could hear it from the other
Yeah.
office many times,
Yeah.
and I'm like, man, this guy. I like this guy.
Yeah. Yeah. And then so you were there for 5 years, 5.5 years.
Yeah, 2010 to 2016. So
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Well, yeah. Well, it's a long time. And then I mean, again, why someone? I know that both you and myself and Nathan have all stayed friends with Steve and Frank, and we're all friends. You guys just, I mean, you couldn't make it, but the whole crew came over for my birthday. I mean, Nathan from
I consider them.
Colombia, Nick from Pittsburgh, and Steve from Vegas, and Frank, and we've all stayed friends, you know. But that doesn't mean sometimes that you need a change or you need to get out or you want to broaden your horizons. And I know that 6 years in, because again, we were speaking regularly, you had a couple frustrations. It wasn't something that you were going to run away from, but I was friends with the guys who owned AutoPot, and I was friends with Dan Gulliver, someone who we're all also friends with. And one day I'll have Dan on this podcast because he's a universally loved person,
Yes.
and one of the best people I've ever met. And we all love him. That I remember sitting down with him at Spanabiz outside on a pile of garbage, and saying to him, like, "What are you guys doing in the U.S.? You're doing nothing." I said, "You know, you have this huge opportunity. I love autopots, you know." And I always thought that with the right team you could do millions in the U.S. And I said, well, I think maybe I know a guy who might be interested in a change. And I introduced you to Dan, and then you started. I mean, I think it was a pretty quick transition, right? You were working
Yeah,
on it.
the rest was history. I think you had mentioned AutoPot a few times to me, but then we had a little more serious conversation, and I began to understand what it was the initial in these initial conversations. And once I did understand what it was just like kind of a light bulb going off in the sense that why hasn't this thing taken off? Why hasn't a product that is so easy to use and provides the results that it does not taken off in one of the biggest markets in the world?
Yeah.
And I think that was your frustration as well, with your proximity to them and knowing the product as long as you've known it.
Yeah, and I wasn't frustrated. I mean, what do I care? It wasn't my business, you know. But
Yeah.
I wanted more for Dan, you know. Like, and it was for you. I wasn't sure, but I knew Dan needed to do something in the U.S. So whether you were the guy or not, but obviously you were, almost 10 years in, and we'll get into all the successes you've had with it. But it was something. So you started just as an employee of AutoPot.
Mm-hmm. heading up the sales under Dan in the UK, in the US, and it was a big job. I mean, AutoPot did not have almost any market share to speak of at that time, even though they had been present in the market for years. Luckily, through my time with Bofloral, I knew, almost all the store owners of these hydroponic retail stores throughout the country from coast to coast because I was covering the entire country. So I did have a rapport with them, and I could walk in and talk about a new product without, getting that glaze over look, So it was on. It was on, man. In the first year, we started grabbing up, probably an exponential increase in market share in the United States.
And well, again, there was those days. 10 years ago, 9 years ago, 9.5 years ago, the market was a lot more accepting of just about anything. And then, of course, COVID hit.
Yeah,
and you guys
times were good back then. They were wonderful.
But that COVID, yeah, the COVID year.
I have them on my shelf. Yeah, come on, let's do it.
So you guys did well through COVID, and then at one point through Nick Ulett, who's another great friend of ours, you guys created AutoPot USA, and it changed the dynamic. Now you became business owners distributing a product, and I think that's when things really started to take off for you guys.
Yeah, it was an upward trajectory regardless as the years increased and things increased generally exponentially when you talk about things like this. But moving our headquarters from the West Coast to Pittsburgh and centralizing our distribution and creating more of a focus on the East Coast that wasn't necessarily there as much as it is now, definitely helped us a lot. And you talk about COVID. There was a big change around COVID. Everybody in our industry feasted during COVID. It was a good time, because there's this big jump in usage and demand, but it really changed things forever. It changed the landscape of what we do as distributors and retailers in the sense that, people started to look to the internet a little more to buy their products and a little less to retail stores. And we saw that shift happening, but it was a dramatic change post-COVID, and that changed the way that you had to approach things and how you have to sell your product and how you put your product in front of people because, prior to that, these hydroponic stores were like a nexus of connection, of information. People would go in and these guys, if they liked your product, if it was present in the store, this is how you got a lot of your potential customers to see the product and become knowledgeable about it. But there was a drop off after COVID. People weren't coming into these stores as much. They weren't looking in the stores and getting information there as they were before. So if you wanted to be in front of your consumers' eyes, you had to change your approach. And the internet and online marketing has always been a big thing, but it became more important. People that knew that and got with it, you could see them present in the marketplace more, whereas others did not. In my opinion.
No, 100%. In fact, the in North America, because you don't see this in other markets around the world, although it happens, say in other ones. But the shift from hobby or black market to a legalized system, you see it in Canada, especially where you guys have all your success really in the United States, but how now everyone just buys legally, and the hobby market here has really, really, really been hurt. Mm-hmm. And so when we say hobby market, it's not just stores; it's where cannabis is being grown and how it's being bought. That there's very few people like myself who have medical licenses and grow it for themselves. Most people just go out and buy it.
Yeah.
And that shift, if companies don't have a strong commercial focus, a lot of companies have suffered. And that, again, shift in the market was after 2021, after the boom kind of ended and then the crash happened. And this is a story I tell, and I use you guys as an example all the time as a success story. And I honestly believe it's one of the greatest success stories in our industry, yourselves and maybe Athena, in terms of growing through a down market. Mm-hmm. But here you are, basically one sales guy based out of New York.
Yeah.
One social media guy, Luke, who has the great smile. You have one great warehouse guy, Rolando, who I met recently in Barcelona and was what a firecracker that guy is. And then you have Nick. And
Yeah.
you have Nick, which I'm not, I mean, I know Nick's important, but I'm not quite sure what Nick does in the day-to-day operations in terms of selling it. This is a very small team.
Yeah, well, look, and it's very labor heavy. So we have a great team of guys in the warehouse as well, putting stuff together. That's one of the biggest things when it comes to what we do is it's very very labor intensive.
It's really secondary to sales, though, right? You can't have a busy warehouse team if you don't have somebody selling the stuff.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
and it's not to say that good warehouse people are easy to find or whatever. They're not important. They're very very important. But in my experience, compared to finding someone who can go out there and put up the numbers continually, make it happen, there's no comparison. That's why I brought up Rolando, because having one central figure who runs the warehouse and who is really on point, obviously is important. Because if you start screwing up orders all the time, well, that'll screw things up. So you guys did something that it seems almost impossible. If I were to tell some of the story that you guys would have built through this crash, a multi-million-dollar company, and just grow from quarter to quarter and seem to grow. You might have had one or two not great quarters, but I know that you've grown continually through the whole thing. You're poised, you said, to have the best year ever this year, next quarter, and next year. Again, I think you mentioned it earlier, but just for whoever is listening and any other small businesses who are trying to do what you did, can you give us a little bit of the recipe? What? It's almost like advice. If someone's listening and they're thinking, well, how did Manny do it? How could I do it?
There's a lot of factors involved. And one thing that is super helpful to us, and this is something that when you have it, and you have it, is great. Is the product that we have? It appeals to the home grower, to the hobbyist at home, to the single tent guy. Our system is perfect for that, right? And this is, as the commercial market was going down, and this is who you wanted to appeal to, especially in these emerging markets, right? But not just that. It was it's using social media, and this is not something that is a secret, but to use social media, to be in front of people's faces, online advertising, and then on top of that, in a market that you see these retail stores declining and closing, to protect them. To do everything you can to continue to help these guys where in certain markets they're still surviving and people are still coming in the stores. And we did that just by, we direct distribute. So we have full control over our pricing. We don't let any discounting happen online. We have a strong MAP policy, and we make it very clear to anybody that's trying to buy our products. We say it all the time, that the best deal you'll get and the most information you'll get is still within a hydroponic store or garden store that's near your home. That being said, you need to increase your presence on the internet, and you need to find a robust network of affiliate growers. And it's not just, these affiliate growers are guys that have 20,000, 50,000 followers. It's finding the right guy with 5,000 followers in a small town in Virginia, right? Finding the guy in Michigan outside of Detroit that has 7,000. These guys found in the right locations with the right followers that are local to them and not just spread out across the country, using your product, doing well with your product. It's a gigantic driving force to other people looking for your products to purchase them online.
Right.
Or find them in a store near them, which is again something that we try to funnel people into the store still as much as possible.
Yeah, I mean, great product. Obviously, it's the beginning to I think any success story. If you want to have continued growth, like I said, I actually went and dug this out. I have my original valve that I've been growing with AutoPots for 20 years.
It looks like you pulled that out of Minecraft, by the way.
So here, here's the newer one, and the difference is, of course, this has two valves.
Uh-huh.
And this one only has the one valve, so it's just basically a float valve that would sit in
Uh-huh.
a tray and water for it wasn't nearly as technical as the new one. And I realized we just got on talking right away. We never really explained kind of that key benefit of the Autopod system itself. Um, which I mean, I might as well let you explain it, being that it's your company. If I was a guy starting off with considering buying this product, how would you tell me what's the great benefit of using an Autopod?
Well, look, the autopots are an automatic watering system. We don't use any electricity or pumps or timers. There's nothing to plug in or set. It's a gravity-fed system. There's a centralized reservoir that can vary in size based upon the amount of pots that you have. But that reservoir you'll fill with water or nutrient solution. Open up the tap, let it flow down into these AquaValves. And what the AquaValves do, you just pulled out. I have my AquaValve right here. It allows the tray to fill up to about a 3/4 inch level with water. It'll cut off, right? As the plants uptake the water, it will, and the tray almost dries up. It breaks the seal here at the bottom of the valve. The valve will open back up and allow the tray to fill. And what we do here, like the key to AutoPot, what we're getting is a constant feed system through a passive means, right? And you just don't see that out there that much, at least not the capacity or the efficiency that we can do. And if we can get everything you can get as far as results and the automation of an active system through passive means, it's a no-brainer. It's an obvious way to go. There's less variables to mitigate, and you're getting the same results you would get out of that constant feed active system with a much simpler and easy to run passive gravity feed system. And even more to that point, each one of these pots have their own valve addressing the specific need of that individual plant. So if one plant's a heavier feeder than the other, that valve is taking that into consideration, right? So we really don't see that across these other automated feed systems. And the evidence is in the results. And that's one thing, again, benefit to us is you jump on the internet and, nothing's 100%, but you go through people's reviews and reactions to using our system, and 98% of them are very positive.
Right. Well, again, I can vouch for the product myself. I've been using it, like I said, for 20 years, and I've used Rockwall, and it's amazing. I've just hand fed. I've done drip system. I've done every system. In fact, you could name deep water culture, NFT. I've tried it all. But I'm not home every day, and that's one of the great benefits. Apart from that, it works well.
Mm-hmm.
Is that I can leave it. I can leave
Yeah.
it confidently and I've left it for 8 days. I think it's the longest where someone had to come and fill my res. That's the only thing that had to be done.
Right.
And this year I'm doing for the first time ever, and we'll get pictures up here, so you'll right now cue the picture, But the XL system and the XXL system, which I'm using outside right now. And you saw that beast. I sent you pictures. I have a plant right now that must be getting close to 10 feet. I don't even know what, could I just let it go? How big is this thing going to get?
Do it.
It is absolutely insane. And the tomatoes, so I have three tomatoes and a ground cherry and AutoPot systems and 4 cannabis plants. And,
Yeah.
and like I said, the ones, they're all beautiful, but the ones in the XXLs are absolutely next level.
I love the XXL. It's amazing. And with rolling out the XXL, and my new favorite thing is the tray to grow. These two systems have a drainage tap, right? That easily allows you to pull these outside. And last year was tough for us because we were just kind of had rolled it out a little while before that. And last summer, got a few people using it. We didn't have as much content. This summer, we have so many more people using these things outside, and we're going to have so much more to show, what you can do. What you're doing right now is amazing. And just to rewind a sec, because I do want to say, you had mentioned yesterday, I thought about this, and saying that you were probably the most consistent, longest user of AutoPot in North America. And I really thought about that for a second. And I'm pretty sure you'd be unchallenged on that. I think that's correct. 20 years of using AutoPot almost?
20 years.
Not,
20
yeah.
years since I got this guy.
I don't think I could find a challenger for you. And I know a lot of people have used it for a long time. But uninterrupted for that long, that's pretty crazy.
Well, and that says volumes about the product. I worked for Bofloral, and
Mm-hmm.
then I did the magazine. And one of the nice things about doing the magazine um, is I get tons of free stuff. I know. I get a lot of people want me to try their products, sample their system. So I lighting, nutrients, whatever. So I've had the opportunity to grow in both when I was at Biofloral, even before that when I was at Bright Light, things like the Coliseum Garden or the Ecosystem, and these are two
Right.
products that no longer exist.
Yeah.
But and on and on and on, and I still remember the first, again going way back with this black one outside growing cucumbers. I think again I told you this story, and I had other cucumbers in my garden. And I make good soil, and I go to efforts to give my plants a good home. And the one in the AutoPot was going crazy. The speed of the growth, but the size of the meristem at the top, the initial fresh growth where it's just exploding out, was about 3 times bigger than the other ones. Like it was this big, this flower looking new growth that turned into multiple, and I got 100 cucumbers off that plant. That it was in
Wow.
oh, no, it was like yellow, these little
Yeah.
yellow cucumbers, and it was crazy. I probably got 5 times more than the one I had in the ground.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I instantly recognized that, oh, cucumbers like to be, and this was outside. I did this outside, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And I jimmied and back to the story of today, I jimmied the tray it was in to have a drainage hole.
Okay. Yeah.
That's why I had the idea for the XXL. So I drilled a
Yeah.
hole, I put a plug, and when it rained a lot, I just pulled the plug, I let the water run through, and then when the rain was done. Anyway, and ever since, I have grown, I mean, I won't say everything, but I've grown a lot of things in my basement, food wise,
Yeah.
and then I stumbled upon ginger and turmeric, which is something a lot of people, might not know me for, but know that I'm really passionate about growing those two things. One, because they're amazing superfoods, and when you're harvesting, and I was able to, the best one I have, again, maybe I'll find a picture and you can post it here, that I did 8 pounds of turmeric in one of your small AutoPots. And when I cleaned it all out and put the turmeric back in the pot, it was 2/3 full of just
Crazy.
turmeric. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So
It's the
some,
best way to grow turmeric, hands down. Ginger,
dude,
the best way.
I,
For a home grower, that's
yeah,
it.
I mean, somebody in Hawaii who has it in the ground would maybe disagree. Turmeric and ginger like tropical conditions. So they grow really well in your grow room. Neither of them are big light hogs, so they can be shoved off to the sides. Now, turmeric makes these big giant leaves, and they can be too big in your grow room if they do well. Ginger has a tall, thin leaf. What's amazing about the ginger is it attracts spider mites. So I've told people since almost 8 or 9 years since I first did it. If you put in the corners of your grow, if you're growing with autopots, and they get whatever my plants get, so they get a pretty heavy feeding schedule. You
Oh,
know,
man. Yeah.
yeah, I don't, whatever. I just let it go. Sometimes I'll pour water in the bottom just to think, oh, but I don't even know if that's good or not. But the spider bites go there first. So it's almost like I don't know the technical word, when you have a plant, and like banker plants for breeding plants, bugs, but this attracts the bugs, and you can see it in there right away. So if again, it's a canary in the coal mine plant for spider mites in your cannabis grow. So I've been doing that forever, and the benefit is you get tons of fresh ginger.
You might start
Turmeric is
trending.
good. So
You might start trending. Every grow tent's gonna have a little bit of a
they're
little
pretty.
ginger.
Well, every grow room or space, when you have space, sometimes space is you're not gonna donate
No, no, no.
space of your cannabis grower to ginger, but it is something where you can just attach. Now I've also attached. The idea is that I grow cannabis. I grow it for my own medical needs, and I have a very small space downstairs. I always joke around. I'm a master grower of 1,000 watts. And I like growing food. It's been a passion of mine, home farming, whatever you want to call it, trying to take care of my own needs. And I've always grown in that space. And I've realized I enjoy it so much that I'll dedicate space. It could be for cannabis. I could grow more, but I don't. And I grow these other things. And turmeric and ginger has become an obsession, to be fair. And I think most people who harvest their first pot, well, that's it. They're going to be done. They're never
Yeah.
going to stop growing it. And same thing goes for almost anything. And this brings me to one of the most amazing greenhouses I've ever been to in my life, which is Ben over at Plantasia in the UK.
Yeah.
AutoPot used to have this trade show called the AutoPot Summer Social, where we used to go to it every year. It was a camping event where they had everything is outside. Canna and Highlight would sponsor an open bar for the weekend in the UK, and you can imagine that is an awful lot of booze. And then Mills would often support the music, and again James would throw down and put a absolute concert on for the weekend of live music,
Yeah.
and we would just walk around eating and drinking and smoking all weekend. It was the most, when the weather was good, it was the best event in the world. Not the
I
biggest,
agree.
the
Yeah.
most.
Best trade show, best party, and those guys are sponsoring the greenhouse as well. You know,
Well,
you'd
this
have
is
your
the thing.
section,
Yeah.
your middle section of the greenhouse. It was
Well,
spectacular.
that's what I'm getting to. So what Ben did was he had different companies, Canna Mills, TA, which is the old GHE, the General Hydroponics in Europe, which is called Terra Aquatica, and all these Shogun or whoever, all these companies would buy a little space, and he would use their nutrients to grow whatever. So when I say whatever, tomatoes that I could only dream to have, peppers that I could only dream to have, hot peppers I could go on onions way bigger than my head, and then flowers this was the most beautiful greenhouse I've ever been in for variety.
The scorpion peppers, the
Everything.
giant pumpkins, and then just how
Everything.
clean it was, how clean and
Yeah.
beautiful and perfect, and
Yeah.
the rows and the lines and the sections. They
Everything.
did the best
Yeah.
jobs I've seen ever.
And there was not a single person who didn't walk in there, jaw drop, and realize, oh, AutoPots can do anything.
Yeah.
There's no, oh, it doesn't do tomatoes. Yeah, it does. It does everything.
It was our shock and awe campaign. You know, show force. People come in and just like oh.
Yeah, if you could have, if you could take that same greenhouse on the road with you, which obviously is impossible, but even have proper videos of it showing it off. It was one of the most inspiring things as an autopot grower, thinking, oh wow, and it changed the way I thought about growing food in autopots. That there is no limits. It does grow everything. Now, what is interesting, and I would ask you your question like on this one and see what you think. Now, I'm not the sort of guy that, oh, I love this strain cannabis and I'm just going to grow this. Oh, I love whatever. I collect seeds and I like to grow different strains all the time. Sativa, indica, hybrids, I don't care. And every now and then I would have 5 different varieties in the garden at one time, and one of them would yellow out. It's being overwatered. Like I know what the problem was. Oh no, because I would valve it off. I valve them all, so I don't all. I'll let them. So I like to do plant steering with autopots, and the only way you can do that is by turning the valve off to let them dry out, like dried, until I feel almost lightness, and then open up and let them go. Adding more perlite or there's this new hydro matrix. I don't know if you know that product that Shane's selling. That's like it's American-made yellow pine, so it's just pine fiber, but it's been used to replace perlite, so it has this weird hydrophobic, like it stays kind of dry. Anyway, ways of keeping it dry. But so every now and then I found a variety that seemed to not love the being super wet or bottom feeding. I don't know. What do you?
Look, I do a lot of troubleshooting across the country. I mean, anything that we have guys in the office do some simple level stuff. Really, everything else comes to me after, and I'll work with guys. And a lot of times people will think, well, this plant just doesn't like the constant water, constant availability of water, and it's being overwatered. And you cut off, you mentioned, I cut off the valve, it's fine. In a lot of those times, it's actually an overexposure to mineral salts before it really is a situation where it's too saturated, right? So that's why as you turn off the system, you may see it improve. And I think it's one of the most common mistakes in our system, and it's misdiagnosed as many other things all the time. And I'm not, exaggerating here. 9 times out of 10, we're just overfeeding. There's a constant availability here, and this is where if we're pulling out strains and we're saying, well, maybe this one's not performing as well. Generally, it's not a situation where it's like, well, it's the autopot, maybe it would do better outside of the system. It's we need to feed a lot less, right? Well, so this is where I see the biggest, discrepancies between different genetics.
Lowering the EC?
Lowering the EC, correct. Yes.
So I have been a 5.8, 2.0 guy, I think, forever.
Okay.
So what What are your
That,
PhEC? Just give me the recipe PhEC veg to bloom. How do you recommend typically a new someone new stuff?
5.8 is solid, especially if we're talking cocoa as a substrate. And then as far as EC goes, around 1.7 is the highest I'd want to see in veg for the majority of strains. And I'm sorry, 1.4. Sorry, 1.4. Yeah, 1.4, and then 2.2 for flower, right? But that doesn't hold true across the board, right? And we can give these recommendations, but you see, differences amongst these genetics, and there's some that are very finicky, and we got to bring the highest EC you'll give is 1.7 in flower to certain strains, and oftentimes, again, it's being misdiagnosed as other things. I'm overwatering here. I'm deficient in this, and generally, whatever nutrient line you're giving is giving a luxurious amount of all these nutrients that are needed. You're not deficient in anything. It's the beginning of lockout. It's overfeeding, and this is what I'm saying. Where you say it's just common. It's something I deal with commonly, that people are saying it's overwatering or it's this, and it really is just overfeeding. As we bring the feed down, we see the plants improve.
So,
or the next go around with the same strain, we approach it differently. We see the plants improve, and sometimes a lot of the damage is done in veg and early flower, and it's hard to fix that mid flower if we've been overfeeding.
all right. So back in the day when I first started growing, and we'd make these soil mixes and whatnot, and we used to have this thing, it was in Quebec anyway, which would be nutrient water. So we'd water with nutrients, we'd water with nutrients the second, and then the third watering would be just water, runoff 15, 10, 20%, whatever, check your runoff. And we would do this all the time. Now, I still remember Jason, who's the owner of AutoPot, emphatically telling me never water this from the top, which makes tons of sense. As the nutrients keep coming up over and over, you're going to get a layer at one point where there must be some sort of salt buildup, where the roots are all down here. They're happy getting fresh stuff all the time. But if you pour water over the top of that, you are going to make an awful mess.
Yeah. All those residual salts be pulled down, so you definitely want to avoid that. And that salt layer is for most guys, is pretty visible. Once you get deep into the grow, you'll see that salt layer on top.
Right. Now, I did just recently, and I have done many, many times, when I'm getting close to the flush mode of my plants, if I don't have that many, so I only have 2 that I need to this time, I brought them outside, and I must have put, 20 liters of water through the top. I just flushed it and flushed it and flushed it and flushed it, and endless, until basically it was coming out almost the same. And then I go put them back in the room, and I run them just for water for the last week.
Okay.
Water. That's not even true. I'll run about 100 to 200 parts per million of nutrients. So I'll put in like a 5th dose, just so there's some salts. But is that good? Should I be doing that? Does anyone else do that?
It's not that it's not working for you, but ultimately it'd be easier and more efficient just to begin to feed just water through the tank.
Yeah.
Let that flow through the system, let that come through the pot, clear the substrate, and the plant will have less exposure to salts until there's almost just water coming through the system to it. Yeah, which should be easier. But, if you're going to go about it that way, you're going to want to put at least 3 times the volume of the pot.
Yeah,
water through it. Yeah, and you're probably going even past that. But as long as you're testing it, you see that, ultimately, what's coming out of there is a very, very, very low EC, then you've done the job,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, I know some people, when I talk about the product in the past, they're really worried about this. Well, they're so used to having runoff, and now there's no runoff. So this brings me to another point about autopots, which we haven't discussed, which is I think really important, is water conservation and water usage. So not just that you save water, you save nutrients, you save money, is one of the points that we didn't talk about. So compared to an average person who's doing a 20% runoff and watering, through rock wool or cocoa small pots, and watering 2 or 3 times a day, and on a small pot, or even some guys more, doing drying back and then, how much water do you think is being saved if you're using autopots?
I mean, we've estimated at 50% less usage, and some scenarios are different than others. There's a couple factors to take into consideration when it comes down to nutrient usages. We're using less water, and then on top of that, you need to use less nutrients than you normally would. Your EC is lower. You're using less of it. So you're not only saving water, you're saving a lot of money in these expensive fertilizers that you're buying.
No, we didn't bring up at all another product you work with. I don't know if you want to discuss it in this at all, but it is your Terps Up product.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, because Manny's not a one-trick pony. He doesn't just have AutoPot. So is this something you want to discuss that?
Yeah. I'm happy to. I mean, listen, it's a very high concentrated tricantanol product. It's
yeah. One mil per 50 liters.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know in gallons if you want to. How much? 1 mil for how many gallons? How do you?
Yeah, it's 2 mils per 25 gallons, roughly.
There you go. 2 mils.
Yeah.
It is. Like he said, it's a new stabilization technology for tricantanol. It's tricantanol. It's no other bells and whistles. It just is what it is.
It is what it is.
I did tests I've been using it for about 2 years now. Since you got it, you sent me some. Okay.
Yep,
100 mil bottle that I still have. So that's one. It's one of the problems for you, obviously, with the product is if somebody buys a liter, well, have a nice life.
Yeah.
If they're a hobby guy. But, I also, for certain products, I love the line of saying the jury's out on tricantanol. Tricantanol works. There's enough peer-reviewed studies. There is endless anecdotal evidence, and it's a nice side-by-side. I mean, you have to wait kind of to the end and harvest, but you can see it. You can see the difference. And
the problem is being able to find a product that can deliver the results of actually having tricantanol present. That it's not just trace amounts; it's amounts that the plant can take up, and we can see what it can do, what this biostimulant can do. And this formula that we have took many years to put together. And going back to you said on the sample size, people were like, "Well, why didn't you dilute it more?" Like, well, yeah, I wish we would have thought of that. It's this is the concentration that holds stable. So 100 ml sample lasts you a while.
And I know you guys also, it's not your product, but you also distribute Grow Genius, which is a monofluorescent acid, which is a bit similar in the sense the technology was made out of the UK. It's an ag product. It has proven itself in the ag world over there. Matt, who's the distributor of it, often says you can't buy a strawberry in the UK that's not grown with GG. It's huge in the strawberry industry, and it's also a 1 mil per 33 liters. So again, on the similar thing, and it is what it is. It's monofluorescent acid, it's silica, and yours is tricantanol. There's no fancy label. There's no.
Yeah, and the Grow Genius has been amazing for me because I'll tell you, I troubleshoot with a lot of people. And one thing that we do, if you call us, if you email us, we will work with every single person that reaches out to us, and we'll never leave you out to dry. If you have an issue, we'll work with you to that issue is solved. And, one of the biggest problems I was having was different silica products in the industry just wreaking all kinds of havoc in a standing reservoir. They're very reactive. They affect pH. They can cause elements to precipitate out of solution. And oftentimes, when I'm talking with somebody, I'm like, let me see your lineup, your witch's brew products. The first thing I'll eliminate if I see a silica product there, let's just pull that out, right, immediately and see how things stabilize. Let's look at your nutrient solution and bringing GG in and having it now in our toolbox and letting growers know this is the only silica we approve to use in this system, really, that will not cause any problems down the line.
Unless you're using another silica product as like a pH product, whatnot, and you've already maxed out, and then those two sometimes don't play well together. I know.
I'm not saying they won't work, but I'm saying this is one that we can say with the utmost confidence will cause no issues.
Well, I love the fact that you guys sell two of the products that I've used different fertilizers. I've often used Canna, I've used Mills, I've used a lot of different, and I find them all I'll say quite similar. But then I always have GG. I always use Terps Up, and now I use I've used different microbes. It was Mammoth P forever and Microbial Mass, but now I'm really kind of hooked on keeping my res clean. So I use hypochlorous acid, one called Safe Grow. It's out of Canada, and it's an amazing product. So for my outdoor reses, I use that. So I just use AB, GG, and the Safe Grow, and it keeps my res. Perfectly clean. I guess my reses right now in this heat wave are getting into the 80s, and I can tell you that's.
Did you have experience running large reservoirs in an AutoPot system outside? How has that been? Like using it, and what kind of?
Well, my first critique is the white reservoirs have a lip. So
Yeah,
when rain falls,
yeah.
it gets in. So I realized, well, I'll just put a cover. So I cut a piece of plywood, I put on top, but it also acts as a shade. So I have them shaded. I don't let water get in. And of course, if it's 30 degrees outside, my water is going to be 30 degrees. If it's 40 degrees, if it's high 90s, and this has been a hell of a summer for heat, my reservoir is going to be 38 degrees. And then if my line is exposed to the sun, that water could easily be topping 100 degrees,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of, you think, has to be bad.
That was
But
that was my same reaction since I've been using them outdoors for the last few years. In situations you think it won't work, it thrives. But if you can shade the line or bury it, it's always great. You can put shade over the tank, that's always good too. I have a 2-liter bottle that I freeze, and on the hottest days, I take it out of my fridge. I'll drop it in my tank.
well, that's it's funny. I've been saying, like I use yogurt. I also save yogurt containers. I don't know. They seem useful for me, so I plant plants in them, or I just use them for stuff. For ice bathing last year, I had about 30 of them. I do like cold plunges, So
I know.
my entire freezer was filled with yogurt containers of ice, so anyway. And I haven't done it this year. I mean, like I said, the nicest looking plants I've ever seen are outside right now.
Yeah.
So
definitely show some pictures.
you're gonna get to see them, and I will be doing a completely separate AutoPot video, like just a brand ambassador video, because I'm so impressed with what I'm seeing out there. And you were joking yesterday, saying like, "What the hell are you gonna do with all of that?" Just the trimming week alone, I have this also Canatrol. I'll give a plug to Canatrol. I have this machine called Canatrol that you put your cannabis in, close the door, hit the button. 8 days later, it's dried and cured, absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
But it can hold about a third of that one plant when that thing comes in. I don't know. Hopefully they mature differently and I can pull them in different weeks, because I don't know how I'm going to dry all that stuff. But it has been really.
Canatrol's watching, and they're already shipping you a larger unit right now.
They don't have a larger unit. He did say he'd give me a second one, but the truth is I have nowhere to put it. I just tried oregano. I have an oregano plant outside that's doing amazing. I grew it inside for a year, and so in 2023 I grew it in my grow room, and then I brought it outside last year, and it is a fucking beast. Even when the snow melted this year, it was already green. Like, it doesn't die. Like, some things that are evergreen, they don't die under the snow. It didn't die under the snow. It was all I could harvest. I could dig through the snow and harvest. Or anyway, I filled the machine and I dried it in the machine, and it dried it perfect. Like, it's still green. I mean, I've been growing herbs for 20, 30 years, forever, longer, and I'm horrible at drying them. You ever dry basil improperly, and then you put it in a jar, you're all happy, and then you're going to make some sauce, and you open it and you smell it, and it doesn't smell like basil. Basil's a tough one. Oregano's a tough one. They don't dry. Rosemary. I've had trouble drying these things, and I am like so happy. I have a huge bag. It's in my Grove bags. What are they called? Terp lock.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, Grove bag. So and I stored them there after. So I have all my cannabis storing and drying and curing stuff to do fine herbs with. But it works amazing. So that was a little tangent. Sorry. So they also have something for the product I didn't mention, which is the air dome, which I think is pretty neat. So it's the first time I'm actually using them this year. So people who are worried about it being too wet, you actually can install this little air dome where the hose comes out and you just pump air into the bottom of the plant. Have you guys done side by sides? Like, do you know that works better?
Pardon me?
Do you know that works? Like, if I use one and don't use one, because I can tell you, I have 2 plants outside, 2 tomatoes, 2 cannabis XLs. One tomato, 1 cannabis has, 1 tomato, 1 cannabis. You wouldn't know the difference. In fact, the tomato that was smaller, which is from a clone my daughter got in 4.5 years ago in school, that I've kept that same plant alive through cloning just for fun. Its name is Ray. It's a tomato, and it was really weak looking. I was a bit nervous for it, and it has come back on the balcony in the XL. Whereas the one that has the air dome, so after every big air storm, I plug it in. This one's growing faster than the one with the air dome.
Listen, there's guys that swear by it. Generally, it should give you an increase. Sometimes it's nominal, not worth it. What I tell growers that are looking at our system, using it already, is use the system without it, and then incorporate it into 1 or 2 pots. Do a side-by-side, see how it goes. If it's something that's working well for you, then, of course, use it throughout the whole garden. If not, then the system is very simple and electricity free. So this, you don't have to complicate it. It's not going to help you. But look, I've seen amazing increases with the air dome in some scenarios. So I think it's a little specific to the grower and the application. I wouldn't paint it across the board. Use this; it's going to do this for you. So I always tell people to take a measured approach, and sometimes they're surprised by that because they expect me to upsell, and everybody should
just sell it, right?
Use the system, see how it works for you. It works amazingly well. Add the air dome in eventually, see how that compares. Couple things to be mindful of. A lot of growers, are trying to kind of skirt around our recommendations on substrate blends, and they're like, well, I won't make it as aerated as they say, but I'll throw the air dome in there. That's not going to clean up that situation, because if you don't have that aeration within the substrate, that air doesn't have anywhere to pass, and it ends up coming right out of the pot. So, if you want to use the air dome, make sure to continue to follow our substrate recommendations.
That's a good point, because I've grown with just cocoa for a factor. I used to do always was a clay pebbles and a 70-30 forever. That's how I started. That was it for a long time, and then I don't know why I just transitioned to just cocoa for years.
That's a lot of you Canadians doing that. A big movement of 100% cocoa guys.
Now I'm back. Well, first of all, then I got back into perlite mixes. Those Bofloral only sells the giant bags, so I'd have that. And so for like a couple of years, I bought more than one bag. For a couple of years, I'd put in like almost 50-50 perlite, really heavy perlite. Yeah. And now I'm trying this new hydro matrix, which is again the yellow pine, shredded yellow pine, which is it's really cool. It acts as a perlite substitute. That's what it was made for. I think it's out of Ohio. And again, it's Shane Hudo, which a lot of people know. That guy's been around forever, who's repping it and getting behind it. So yeah, I realize it's way better to have better aeration in the pot. It's always a just in case, but it just makes sense as in all. Well, let's also bring up, because I know that a lot of people do it, and anyone who's listening who's into organics, so that you can make pretty rich organic soil mixes and just use water.
Mm-hmm. A large percentage of our growers do that. It's very popular. You have Build a Soil as a huge YouTube channel and online following, using their products and their soils in our system with water or your own, or there's so many pre-bagged living soils that you can use, and there's nothing easier than grabbing an organic soil mix, an AutoPot system, some autoflower seeds, and just setting it up and let it go. And this is what's been such a slam dunk for all these new growers and all these emerging markets. And going to a dispensary is expensive, especially in these new markets, these new retail markets. I live here in New York. Getting an eighth can be anywhere from $50 to $70 for an eighth. A cartridge is going to cost you $70. It's really expensive. And when these guys, invest in an AutoPot system and some good organic soil, so the autoflower genetics right now are insane that you can get. It is so easy to get a great harvest. And you know what? Some of these growers that are growing for the first time are producing better stuff than it's in these local dispensaries. So it's the quality out of these soils is amazing.
Yeah, I agree. I actually have my first ever autoflower in the Canatrol machine right now that I ever grew.
Really?
It was a Big Mike genetics.
Really?
That was convincing me by someone, so I'll try it. And because it was a tangerine variety, that I'm like, looks good, smells good. It was pretty big. At the end, it was heavy. It came out. It wasn't very big, but yeah. So I wanted to bring up, first of all, your Instagram handle is
at AutoPot_USA. For anybody on the gardening side outside of cannabis, we have our AutoPot Garden USA page as well, which we're trying to build up. And anyone growing stuff outside, using our products outside, using it for non-cannabis, please send in whatever you have. We want to see what you're doing.
How many followers do you guys have right now on your Instagram?
Instagram, I think just under 40K. We just like everybody else. There was a shadow ban that happened for us around 30, last 10,000 or so followers. It's all organic. It's a grind.
Well, a lot of people are struggling to get to 10,000 followers, and there's something that happens around 7,000 for a lot of people these days. Mm-hmm. point of what I make about your company and what's so amazing about your company is what yourself and Luke has been able to do online, what you've been able to do with social media, the actual real community that you've built. I like to, it's a little bit like the, KISS Army, that you have this AutoPot army. You have thousands and thousands of super dedicated people who are there to help other auto. I love your Instagram is probably my favorite Instagram, not just because of the pictures, but because of the community. Because it's not negative. You have a couple assholes, but it's not like, when someone puts a picture and the plant looks like crap, and someone writes, "Just throw it in the garbage," and I'm always like. Or they're just like really insulting to this person, and you don't get that. I mean, it might happen, but you don't get that nearly as much. It seems to be quite a friendly group
They are
of people that are. Yeah.
People are highly engaged, and it's funny because I'll go in the comments, I'll see that occasional like somebody saying something that's like well, and before like, oh, I know what I would say. There's already a bunch of other guys, other AutoPot users that are already like saying the correct adjustment so it's highly engaged group users, lots of content that they provide, direction. There's different AutoPot pages and subreddits and groups on Facebook with lots of members and great information. So there's no lack of it out there, and that's really what's helped bring so many people into it too. Again, because we have all these positive experiences and people sharing it. So when somebody's thinking, I'm going to get into this growing thing, I'm going to do it for myself, they quickly kind of see us as an option, and they see the recommendations that other people are making.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to congratulate you on your success with AutoPot. I think it's amazing what you guys have done. You're all a wonderful group of people. You deserve it.
Thank you, Eric.
This hour just blew by. It's been amazing having you. So what we like to wrap up the show with is I'd like to give you an opportunity to say something nice about me and garden culture. Because I know you
have gripes. I actually have a list of gripes I have with you. Is this a good time to...
Let's go.
Well, first off, listen, I think that I was a little insulted that I'm your third guest. I feel like I should have been on. No, man, listen, at the same time, I want to thank you, man. Me personally, in my experiences within this industry and professionally, everything that you've done for me has been amazing. And then on the AutoPot side of things, way before I even got involved in AutoPot, you've been revolving around this product. You've loved it because you've really loved it. It's not brought you anything monetarily necessarily, but it was your love for the product and everything you've done around it. So we really appreciate that. We have a lot of great things in the future coming, new products for different markets outside of cannabis, more aesthetically pleasing items. So I think everybody should look out for that. And thanks for having me on, man.
This is supposed to be about me at the end, but you can talk about you again. That's okay.
Yeah, we also...
The magazine's great. You love the magazine. You advertise it, and it's beautiful. I know you love that. So thanks for saying that. That's nice.
Yeah. Catch our ad in garden culture.
Yeah. Anyway, Manny, again, thank you so much for being my guest. It's been amazing. I'll be talking to you again very, very soon. I wish you all the success in the future. Keep going. And anyone who has not tried AutoPot, reach out to Manny. Somewhere in this podcast will be his information, and play around with it. You won't be disappointed.
Thank you, Eric.